Hi guys, Andy from Next Gen Base here with a little video for you following Microsoft's little podcast last night. I'm currently playing Forza Horizon 5 on my MacBook Air. That's actually a massive lie. I'm not playing Forza Horizon 5 natively on my MacBook Air. As you probably are well aware, it doesn't run on a MacBook Air. I am playing it through XBox Gamepass streaming on my MacBook with, I'll try not to crash the car, an Xbox One S controller, Bluetoothed to my MacBook, playing it on my big screen on my new desk, which regular viewers will note this is a brand new angle for me, which is why I've not done any videos for a while. But anyway, back to the subject of this video. I just kind of wanted to chime in a little bit on what Microsoft talked about last night on the podcast. Obviously, this was supposed to be a podcast that was planned for a number of months. However, we all know that's probably not the case. It's likely that it was a podcast that was planned as a reaction to some of the news that came out that they were potentially porting some of the Xbox titles to other consoles. It turns out it wasn't quite as drastic as the rumours would have you believe. We're not going to see Starfield on PlayStation 5 yet. We are going to see some games on PS5 and Switch. Rumours are at the minute those games are likely to be Hi-Fi Rush, Pentiment, Sea of Thieves and Grounded, which kind of ties in with some of Xbox's sentiments from the podcast last night. One of the big things that was doing the rounds, though, before the podcast aired was apparently Microsoft have been telling their staff internally, that sucked, I've gone off the edge of a cliff there. Bear with me. So one of the things that Microsoft apparently was internally promoting prior to the podcast the other night is the concept that every screen should be considered to be an Xbox. What does that mean? Well, obviously, one of the things we're talking about is Xbox games potentially appearing on other platforms. That's nothing new. Obviously, Game Pass has been on PC for quite some time now. Xbox Studios games have been playable on PC for some time now. We've also seen ports of Xbox Studios games to Nintendo Switch in the form of, obviously, Ori and the Blind Forest and Ori and the Will of the Wisps, both of which are absolutely fantastic ports to the Switch. So seeing some of the games from the Xbox Game Studios library come to other platforms isn't necessarily something out of the ordinary. What, however, I think the crux of the memo that was allegedly leaked prior to the podcast was the concept of cloud streaming. Now, obviously, cloud streaming has been around for a while. We've seen it for many, many years on PC, and it's just starting to become quite prevalent, particularly with Microsoft's offering on Game Pass and Sony's offering on PlayStation, as well as services like Google's now defunct Stadia and Amazon's Luna. Now, if you are a regular viewer of the channel, you may remember a few years back I did a series of videos where we took a look at some Stadia games, and I was actually quite impressed with the technology. I thought it worked quite well. I think Google really, really messed up on the marketing of Stadia, and certainly on the business model and how they actually sold the games on Stadia, or rather, they possibly shouldn't have sold the games on Stadia. And where I think Microsoft's perhaps getting it right, and where I think a lot of the sentiment of every screen as an Xbox is coming from, is the fact that streaming is such an integral part of Game Pass now. You can stream on your phone, on your tablet, as I'm doing on my MacBook. You can connect controllers. I'm using my Xbox One S controller on this at the moment, but I have in the past used my Google Stadia controller, which of course was really sitting around doing nothing until I converted it to a standard Bluetooth controller. And I think underneath all of the business nonsense that kind of accompanied last night's presentation, because let's be honest, there was a lot of things said without really saying anything by the Xbox team. Oh heck, that was a big mistake. I think what it really boils down to is that Xbox are really trying to push Game Pass, whether it be natively installed or whether it be via streaming, onto as many screens as possible. I have Game Pass, and I'm going to use the quote, air quotes here, installed on my Steam Deck. It is just running through Chrome browser, but it does mean that I can play, Xbox games streaming portably on my Steam Deck. How portable they are is very much, your mileage may vary. For me, it's largely a way of getting Xbox games on a smaller screen when I'm just kind of sat on my couch. If I find myself on the go and I've got a fairly decent connection, I will stream stuff. I have indeed streamed games on my phone with touchscreen controls when I've been sat waiting for someone, if I've got a decent mobile signal. Is it a great experience? I think this is what a lot of people kind of ask when they talk about game streaming. I mean, see for yourself. This is Forza Horizon 5 running on a wired connection via Xbox game streaming to my Mac. It's fine. It's not a premium gaming experience. It's certainly not something that would ever, I think, replace having a standard console that you would plug into your TV or your monitor. But I think as an alternative, as a way to get your games elsewhere, as a way to kind of carry on your games elsewhere, I think it's a great prospect, because obviously it does tie into Microsoft's cloud saves. This particular save of Forza Horizon, I started a few years ago on my Xbox Series X. It's now something that I can pick back up on cloud gaming. I can obviously the save will sync back to my Series X to play on there, and I think as an ecosystem it's got an awful lot of promise to actually be able to kind of liberate games from just being tied to one particular screen and one particular device. And I think ultimately that's the direction that Microsoft are trying to head in. I think gatekeeping where people want to play their games based on specific devices or specific companies is a bit silly. And I think a lot of the sentiment that's been coming out of the discourse throughout the last few weeks, as it's been rumoured that Microsoft games may be going elsewhere, Microsoft may be going digital only, Microsoft may be doing this, that and the other. I am not saying this because I support Microsoft above everything else. I own all the consoles. I appreciate I'm in a privileged position to be able to do that. But it does mean that I kind of have a non-biased view of these things. And personally, if Microsoft were to turn around and say games coming to PlayStation, games going to Switch, Game Pass streaming is going to be on everything, I'm all for that. I'm all for people being able to take their games wherever they want. There are probably people out there who just have a potato MacBook or potato PC and play games streaming through Game Pass with a cheap second-hand... That's not a great manoeuvre. With a cheap second-hand Xbox controller they picked up through a Game Pass subscription streaming. I think that, if that is how people want to play their games, is a perfectly acceptable thing to do, and I fully embrace Microsoft's way forward with this. I think game streaming has a big future, a bright future ahead of it. I think more people should give it a go. If you have a Game Pass subscription, try it out. You can play games streaming on your phone. You can play games streaming on your Mac, on your iPad, on your Android tablet, on your Steam Deck. Give it a go. See what you think. Your mileage may vary. I am on a wired connection here. If you're on a wireless connection, you may find that it's not quite as smooth. Ultimately, I think the tech's going to only improve. As I mentioned earlier, I think Google really nailed it with Stadia from a tech point of view. I'm kind of hoping that some of that can feed back into services like Game Pass and Luna going forwards and just improve the tech from that kind of standpoint. But, you may disagree with me on this. If you have an opinion about game streaming, we'd love to hear it in the comments. Go, talk to us about your experiences. Do you think it's a great idea? Do you think it's not such a great idea? Do you think Microsoft's plan to kind of introduce games to more screens than just where your Xbox is plugged into is a good idea? Do you think it's a bad idea? If you've liked this video, do hit that like button. And if you're not subscribed to the channel, go ahead and do it. We've got more videos coming up in the future. Hit the notification bell. And we will see you next time on an NGB video. Bye for now.